Before this video starts, I want to give just a quick thanks to all the support that I've had on my recent 2 videos that I've done. It is astounding how far we've come in just 3 different videos that I've uploaded. Literally every time I check my phone, there's more and more comments and likes, and it's just astounding to me how much support we've gotten. And we're up to 600 subscribers now, which is just crazy because I've only uploaded 4 videos now, or 4 including this one. But really, I couldn't fathom how big, I probably shouldn't say big, just big to me, this channel would become in, the short amount of time we've been uploading. Really, thank you all, and now we'll move on with the video. So for this video, I kind of want to do something a bit different, as we've been doing lore videos recently, the last 2 at least, and I just want to make a wish list for things I really want added to this game, as I feel it really needs some content, as it's kind of being slow with it, and I know that's not the fault of Arrowhead. I'm sure it's like money and time constraints or whatever, and they're a fairly small team, I think. But with the recent additions of the maxi gun and a few other stratagems that I really thought they were pretty adamant on not adding due to engine limitations, I kind of have some more hope for stuff they might add in the future. The maxi gun is pretty damn awesome, by the way. And with Christmas being so close, this is kind of my Santa wish list to Arrowhead. This is pretty much everything I could think of that I want added to this game within the next year. And with that, we can actually get started with the real parts of this video. Before we continue, I just want to apologize for my voice, as I've been feeling really sick since the last recording of this video. And yeah, I just want to get that out of the way before continuing, because it's kind of jarring how different I sound. Now, with the recent addition of the Double Freedom shotgun, it kind of gave me an idea of what would be awesome to be added to this game as a potential war bond. And if it wasn't obvious already from the previous music clip that I had earlier, I think Doom is a good idea for this game. Now, with the addition of the Double Freedom, it kind of threw a wrench in my idea for this war bond, because obviously you would want a super shotgun from Doom if you were going to make a Doom warbond. With it now basically being in the game, it gave me other ideas for what other weapons or items or gadgets could be added from the Doom universe, and I have a few here that I think would really work for Helldivers 2. For this warbond, I would want 2 weapons, a backpack stratagem, and a support weapon stratagem. Possibly 2 support weapon stratagems, seeing as one of them kind of wouldn't work, but I don't know, maybe it would work, but we'll get to that in a second. For the first weapon, my idea is the plasma rifle from Doom Eternal, as we already have plasma weapons in the game, and I feel like this one would cover a niche that isn't really in the game yet, because most of the, you do have the Scorcher, like with an automatic plasma thing, but I feel like the plasma rifle could fulfill 2 smaller niches as opposed to the Scorcher. Obviously, you have the automatic fire, which is the base fire from Doom Eternal, but you could also have a switchable microwave beam that you could use in Helldivers 2 to melt larger enemies the more you keep the beam on them, sort of as an anti-tank option, which would kind of be overpowered, but I still feel like it could be like, if you hold it too long, it might explode in your hands or something, which I feel would balance it out quite nicely. For the specifics of the gun, it could have no magazines, just a set amount of ammo that would refill if you picked up a resupply, and it would have medium penetration on the automatic fire mode, and then on the microwave beam it would start at light and then kind of go to heavy the longer you kept it on an enemy, sort of like the chainsaw that we have in the game right now. If this were to come into the game, I have a feeling it would be really overpowered, as having medium pen and an anti-tank option for a gun would be insanely good. It would be awesome to have in this game. But like I said, I feel like they could balance it out where it would have drawbacks for holding it on an enemy too long. Obviously, if you were using the microwave beam, the automatic fire wouldn't really need a drawback, as we basically have that as the Scorcher. On to our next primary, and I should have prefaced that the plasma rifle would be a primary in this warbond, and the second one would be none other than the combat shotgun from Doom Eternal. And I want this one because we already have the Halt in the game, and I feel this one would be similar but different in many ways. First, it would have light penetration for the shotgun shell part of the gun, and for the sticky bomb part, it would have medium penetration, which would make it just like the 1-2 from the newest warbond that we just got added, which would work exceedingly well, as the 1-2 is a pretty good gun already. But as a shotgun, it might, I don't know, it might work better in some aspects. The sticky grenades would function similarly to the normal grenade launchers that we have in the game, but they would be sticky, which could help. You could stick it to a big enemy as they're coming towards you and blow it up next to all the smaller enemies or something like that. I just think it would be really cool. I'm picturing the shotgun part of it just acting similarly to the Punisher, like the normal Punisher that we have in the game, which would be good. It would probably make the Punisher obsolete. It could have like a little less damage or a little less range or something like that. That's it for the primary weapons. I want to move on to the backpack stratagem, as I've been thinking a lot about this one, and I kind of have an idea of two different ones that could be added. The first one would be a jump pack-esque type backpack, but not like the jump pack we have where it's a big distance, more like a dash backpack almost, where like in Doom Eternal, I know I'm pulling a lot from Doom Eternal, but that's probably my favorite game. This dash could be used to evade enemies or any of the sorts, maybe even movement techs, but it would have two rechargeable ones that recharge pretty fast as opposed to the other two dash backpacks. And you could say it's just a worse version of the warp pack, but the warp pack has its own thing where you can teleport through walls and kill enemies with it. This dash backpack would not do that. It would just strictly be movement and evasion, but on a faster scale than the warp pack. This would be an awesome idea for a backpack, as we already have packs in the game that do similar things, but I feel this one would fill its own niche, and it sucks because the Doomslayer got his dash from his boots, and we'd be getting it from a backpack in Helldivers 2. But, I mean, it fits the game more, and I feel like this one would just be awesome to have in the game. The other idea I had for a support backpack stratagem was the grenade launcher from Doom Eternal, but I feel that one really wouldn't help at all, and it just wouldn't really fit Helldivers 2, as we already have so many. And I mean, I already talked about the combat shotgun, adding another grenade launcher to the game, but that was just a thought, and I don't really think it would pan out very well in this game. On to the support weapon stratagems, and I mean, I really cannot make this video, or make this section of the video without mentioning the BFG 9000 from pretty much every Doom game. I mean, this is a no-brainer for a Doom collab. It would be awesome. Like, this would be the best, probably not the best support weapon stratagem, as it would have to have its drawbacks and niches. But just the idea of a giant, like, ball of energy that this thing would shoot, I think it would have to just kill every lesser enemy and then, like, severely damage the tank enemies. It would have to have a really long cooldown and only, like, one or maybe you could get away with adding 2 shots to this thing before it was done. But yeah, it would have to have a really long cooldown, and it would just be a get-out-of-jail-free card, basically, to anything. Maybe not anything, as with the design philosophy that Arrowhead seems to have, there has to be a drawback to this thing. It couldn't just be an amazing weapon that just killed everything. It would have to have some skill to it, whether that be like the angle that you shoot it at, or how many enemies are near it when you shoot it, like if it goes off early or whatever. Just making it somewhat skillful. Again, for a Doom collab, this would basically be a no-brainer for this game. And for the last support weapon, I was thinking about the Crucible, but I don't know how that would work in this game, like, at all. Like, I don't know if it would have to have limited uses for each hit or something. I don't know how it would work, but I would really like to see how they would implement the Crucible sword. There were a few other things that I wanted added from Doom, but I feel like most of them were stretches, as I was thinking about maybe adding a demon faction, like from Doom, and like there's a bunch of heavy enemies and light enemies and everything that would work in Helldivers 2, but I think that's grasping at straws, to be honest. That's pretty much everything I have for the Doom collab, and I really hope that they add this one, as it would just make the game just way better. And yeah, all the ideas that I've had so far just have been things that would work in Helldivers, but honestly, you could go with any of the other weapons from Doom, or any of the other, like the big freaking crossbow from the newest game. That could work in here somehow too, but I don't know, that's just stuff that I thought would be cool from Doom. On to our next collab, and it's from an IP that I don't know much about, but I feel would really work in Helldivers 2. And, I mean, it's Star Wars. I mean, was there really any other option for a collab for a giant space galactic battle like Helldivers 2? I don't think so. There are so many ideas to add from a Star Wars IP collab. All the factions, weapons, vehicles, anything that you can really think of from Star Wars would probably fit in Helldivers 2. For a war bond, I would probably do, again, like what I did with Doom, where it's 2 weapons, 2 support weapon stratagems, and then like a backpack possibly, but I don't really know what a backpack from Star Wars would look like. For the first primary weapon that we would have in the game, it would probably be the E11 blaster, as that's like the most iconic weapon from Star Wars, other than probably Han Solo's blaster, but I could be wrong on that. And I have a really good idea for this one. It being kind of smaller could put it in the SMG category for Helldivers, and with that it would be one-handed and plasma based, so it would have medium pen, one-handedness, and it could have an overheat mechanic too, just like the double-edged sickle is what comes to mind. If it were to have stats like that, it would fill a niche that really hasn't been in Helldivers yet, which is a plasma-based SMG. And it could work really well, as we don't have a lot of weapons that are plasma yet, but most of them are in the assault rifle category, which kind of sucks. Yeah, I wish This one would fill that niche pretty well. It would have medium pen, again with the one-handedness, so you could shoot it behind you pretty accurately while you're running away. And the overheat would have to be kind of small, not as big as the double-edged sickle, because I feel like that would be way too overpowered. But for a first weapon for the Star Wars collab, I think this one would fit really well into Helldivers too. And I mean, everyone would recognize it. It's Star Wars' like iconic blaster. And yeah, I just think this one would work really well. As I was looking through all the weapons that are in Helldivers 2 just now, I realized that we don't have a lot of like long range type weapons. Yeah, we have the Deadeye and the Diligence counter sniper, but that's pretty much it. And as I was thinking of ideas to put in this video, I realized that when I was thinking about Star Wars, I have watched The Mandalorian, and in that show, he has something called the Amban sniper rifle, which is one of the main weapons that he uses in that show. But I love the design of this, and I feel like it could work with it being it has like a melee weapon function to it. At least in Fortnite it did. In the show, it has like a paralyzing effect, kind of like the stun lance from Helldivers. And I feel like it would be really cool to implement that onto a weapon too, to a lesser effect, to keep the stun lance still relevant. I don't think it ever was, but yeah, I'd really love for this weapon to just absolutely melt and disintegrate any enemy that doesn't have higher than medium penetration armor to it. I feel like it would have to have kind of lesser amount of ammo to it just to keep it balanced, as disintegrating like a Hive Guard or like an Alpha Commander or even a Devastator just instantly would be really, really good, like to keep them off your back or whatever. But the focus would mainly be long range, just like picking enemies off, really. I believe this would be one of the coolest weapon additions to the game, just in general. Like, it would just be awesome to have this in the game too. Again, Star Wars is huge, and there's so many different weapons to pick from that could be primaries, but I feel these would be the two like just best options for what we need in the game, and they would fill specific niches that we really don't have yet. Onto the support weapons now, and I really don't think it would be a Star Wars collab without adding a lightsaber of some sort. Probably the most iconic thing to even ever come out of the Star Wars IP. For the actual use of the weapon, I would really like it if it had infinite uses, as I don't think lightsabers in Star Wars ever have like a battery life or whatever, but I feel like it would be high risk, high reward, as you could cut anything in half basically. It would be anti-tank almost in nature, I would hope. But for the high risk, high reward factor, you would have to get really close to enemies to do maximum damage, kind of like the chainsaw and pretty much every other melee weapon that we have in the game. I don't know what variant they would put from the Star Wars, like the actual hilt or the color or whatever. Maybe you could change it in game, I don't know. That would be really cool. But just the idea of having a plasma sword that cuts through anything just as long as you're close enough, just it really, really seems like it would fit in Helldivers too. And I mean, obviously, Star Wars lightsabers, like, come on, it was literally a no-brainer. For the next support weapon, I didn't have many ideas of what could possibly work, but I just kind of winged it and said, what about Han Solo's DL-44 blaster? You might be asking, why isn't this a pistol? But I feel like if they were to make it a sidearm, like a normal sidearm, it would just be like a reskin Talon with a scope. And I don't really think that would fit. So this is my idea for the DL-44 in Helldivers. First would be the normal hip fire. So if you're not aiming in, or if you're not in first person mode, it shoots fast and does less damage, like say a medium pen, but it has infinite ammo. Actually, scratch that. It still has medium pen, but it has a charge where if you shoot it too much, it blows up in your hand. But as soon as you scope in, it does anti-tank damage, and it shoots like a really, really concentrated beam of whatever, laser, energy, plasma, or whatever. And it just destroys everything. But if you use it too much, the pistol blows up and kills you. Again, high risk, high reward. And I feel that works really well in Helldivers, as everything can kill you, like pretty much anything, teammates probably being the most dangerous. But for this collab, I feel like this would work. The DL-44 in Star Wars doesn't really work this way, but I feel for Helldivers you would need to add some sort of mechanic that would, you know, balance out how powerful it could be. And I just think this would be awesome. It would be our first support pistol stratagem in the game. That's it for the support weapons, and now we can move on to like the backpacks, which I'm gonna be honest, I really don't have anything. There's jetpacks in Star Wars, but we already have that in Helldivers. I just don't think that would be a great fit, as it would just be replacing something we already have, and probably not doing it much better. I'm sorry I couldn't come up with any backpacks to wear in Helldivers that would work, but one thing that would work is the armors from Star Wars. I mean, there is so many to pick from. I think the most obvious one is the Stormtrooper armor that has been seen in pretty much every single movie since the originals. Another armor that I would like to see is some sort of Mandalorian armor, and we kind of already have a helmet for that looks like a Mandalorian in Helldivers, coincidentally, but a full armor from the Star Wars would look awesome in Helldivers. That's it for the collabs that I thought of. I mean, there's so many more that you could do, like for this game that would work, but these are the two big ones that I thought really, really need added, and just like the ideas that I brought up I think could really fit in Helldivers. A few more that I thought about including, but really don't know how I would implement them, are Titanfall and Warhammer 40k, specifically Space Marine 2, as that game was getting compared to Helldivers when it came out. But yeah, that's it for the collabs, and now we can move on to the next section of the video. So with the recent update blogs that Arrowhead have been putting out, they've been talking about a lot of different things that they might add to the game, and one of those things has been the vehicles. Now I'm not sure what exactly that means, because there could be a lot of different possibilities for that. Possibly they're referring to the vehicles from Helldivers 1, which I think has been discussed about being re-added into 2. There are 3 different ones from the first game. Apart from the mech that's already been added, there's the motorcycle and the tank that have yet to be added into this game. And I think I speak for everyone when I say this really needs to be added to Helldivers 2. I've never played Helldivers 1, but I'm sure it works how I think it would work in 2, where each part of the vehicle could be controlled by a different player, specifically for the tank. Possibly somebody drives, somebody shoots the big tank gun, and then somebody shoots like a little machine gun on the side, and that could be like a 3-person vehicle. I don't know how it would be integrated with 4. The fourth person could be like, I don't know, some sort of recon or spotting enemies, but it could also be accommodated for single player and like duos and trios. Like you could gain more control of the tank the less people you have. But this has been one of my most anticipated things that I'm hoping they add soon, and it seems like they will, since I just mentioned that they've been talking about adding vehicles or more vehicles to the game. One thing I really would like to see too is some sort of flying vehicle, like a helicopter or possibly even an airplane, but I'm sure that's a stretch. I think a helicopter is feasible, seeing as we already have the Pelican in the game. Maybe we could have like Pelican 2, and that's the player controlled one. I think this one would be a lot easier to integrate 4 players with. 2 could be on the sides, like with machine guns that have like medium penetration, and then 1 could be operating the autocannon that has the heavy pen, and then 1 person could be driving. I think this would be more of a attack vehicle and not necessarily a mobility vehicle, as most of the enemies in the game don't have anti-air capabilities. Probably the automatons would be like the hard counter to this thing. Really, the automatons and the Illuminant are probably the only factions that would stand a chance against this thing. The Terminids do have dragon roaches, but those aren't on every mission. But you could make like the spile spears with their mortars like try and shoot us down while we're in it. Even making the hunters jump up and like scrape at it and try and knock it down out of the sky. Like with the tank, you could make it so that the more or the less players that there are actually in it, the more control that is gained from those people. And to make it not so overpowered, because I know Arrowhead doesn't like doing that, it could have like a fuel like level or a timer where if it runs out of time or fuel, it'll just blow up or fall out of the sky. This is probably my favorite stratagem that I've came up with for this list, as we really don't have anything where we're like in the air other than like the hover jetpacks. Those aren't really as fun as I think this could be. I mean, this would probably be the best stratagem in the game, to be honest. These 2 vehicles would breathe new life into the gameplay cycle, as we really don't have vehicle combat or anything of the sort other than the mechs, which are probably the coolest stratagems we have in terms of just like sheer fun. And the fast recon vehicle isn't really a combat like centered vehicle. Yeah, it has the giant machine gun, but you could just run that as a stratagem anyway. There's not really any good reason to use it other than getting around the map quick. I mean, it's not like it can't be used for combat, it's just much better suited for other things. Another idea for a stratagem I have is some sort of gunship that you can call in once per match, and I'm basically thinking of the gunship from Call of Duty. If I'm sure everyone knows about that one. Probably wouldn't be good to make it single use, just a really long cooldown, and you call it in and you get access to this giant airplane that has a ton of weapons on it. Just literally what the gunship was from Call of Duty. Maybe having like a laser, a heavy machine gun, and then like missiles for the weapon selection. It could be really destructive in terms of how much damage it can do in its short use time, but the long cooldown would really balance it out. When they do add vehicles or more vehicles to the game, I hope they add a tab in the Super Destroyer where you upgrade them using the samples that we collect. And you can make the upgrades like more health or less call-in time or less wait time or anything really. Just making them their own thing would be awesome. One more stratagem idea I have, I mean. Actually, I really can't call it my idea, as I've seen this on many social media posts about Helldivers, and this idea has been floated around by, like I said, a lot of people. The many ideas that people have had for customizable mechs is what I'm talking about. Many of these suggesting that the arms should be changed out for different types of weapons. I found this image on Reddit, and credit goes all to this guy that made this. Actually, I think there's a mini artist that actually contributed to this. But this graphic really does put into perspective, like, perfectly what I want them to do with the mechs. Like I mentioned previously with the other 2 stratagems that I talked about, this could have its own upgrade tree in the Super Destroyer that you could contribute samples to. This in turn would allow you to choose which arms could go on your mech. Again, it would just add so much depth and even more reason to use the mechs, as I feel like nobody uses them anymore because they're kind of just obtuse and their cooldowns are way too long. But this would definitely add depth, and I mean, that would keep people playing. Arrowhead could add different arms to the different war bonds that they release, which would add even more incentive to complete them. Again, all credit goes to this guy, ImmordNilap, on Reddit. This is where I found this image, and I think it just sums up what I'm talking about perfectly. Those are all the stratagem ideas I could come up with, and all of them are vehicles, I know, but I think that's the most underutilized part of this game is the vehicles. And Arrowhead should really double down on it this year, seeing as we literally haven't had one added in over a year now. But yeah, that's all the stratagems I think Arrowhead should release pretty soon. And now we can move on to the final part of this video. Now, it's no secret that Helldivers 2 has horrible game balance, whether that be guns that nobody uses, stratagems that nobody uses, solo play basically being the most boring part of the game, and everyone's favorite.
Clear the area.
Bruh. 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 Bruh.
I hate those guys, by the way. But with all that being said, I just want this game to be fun again. Not in the sense that the game is bad or anything, but I genuinely haven't touched like half of the weapons that are in my arsenal, nor the stratagems either. And something about that really does bug me, as they've obviously put a lot of effort into these things, and there's just no sign of trying to fix them to make them usable. And that's what I mean by the game is really imbalanced. And with the solo thing that I just mentioned, I do play this game by myself most of the time, and that's mostly out of just everyone that I used to play with is busy now, and I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people. But I feel a lot of these things could be fixed just with, you know, quality of life changes and certain buffs that weapons need. Like, I can't even tell you the amount of minutes or even seconds that I've used many of the guns in my armory. But then you can make the argument of building around a certain weapon to make it work good. But when there's clearly better options in the game, it just doesn't really feel like the effort is really needed. For instance, if you've watched my first video that I ever uploaded on this channel, I love the Deadeye and I love using it. But the Coyote is just superior in every single way. And that just makes me just never ever want to use the Deadeye. And that's like my favorite weapon. And that's not to say that the Coyote's like the best thing in the game ever. It's just the most viable. It's the one that sucks the least. The Deadeye, while being super fun to use, just isn't as good. And I struggle really hard with it in most of the missions. And with all this being said, I don't think that every weapon should be on the level of the Coyote. But just viable in the least, just so that I can pass a super Helldive mission with most of the weapons in the game. This goes for the stratagems too, because most of them I really don't use. It feels like the game doesn't promote variety in your playstyle when everything else just will not work. Like, I want to take a different build into every single mission and have it work to some extent. Not to the point where it's the best thing ever, but just to the point where it works. Obviously, keep the dynamic of, you know, you probably shouldn't take a laser weapon that overheats onto a lava planet, but you get what I mean. I feel this rant also applies to team composition, and like I said, I play solo mostly, and it's a struggle sometimes. Like, if I'm alone with the bots, I don't want 5 factory striders dropping on my head, because I just can't handle that. And if you can, kudos to you, but I just can't. I would like if difficulty scaled, obviously based on the level that you set it at, but also how many people are in your party. And I can't exactly figure out how it would be implemented, but I just want it to happen. I'm sure I speak for a lot of us solo divers out there. I get that Helldivers 2 is a team game, and it should be played with a team to be the most effective and the most fun, but it's just not possible for some of us most of the time. Another thing that irks me is how the armor system is set up. Like, you have to choose a specific look just to have a specific perk on it, and I really don't know what the reason is behind this. Maybe realism, or just keeping to a theme. But it really needs to go. Like, we really need to be able to choose which perks go on which armor sets. 1, it adds more variety, and 2, I mean, I want to look dripped out when I'm diving. But yeah, there's a lot more things that I wish could be added to this game, but this is my, like, top things that I want, like, added, like, this year at least. And I'm sure most of these will not come to the game, sadly, but one can only hope, right? This is all, like, my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with a lot of the takes I have in this video, but if you do, let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to read them. And with all that, this has been my Helldivers 2 wish list for 2026. Arrowhead, please watch this video and add everything that I mentioned, please. I'm sorry this video is coming out a lot later than what I normally upload. Christmas was really busy this year, and I'm sure a lot of people can understand and relate to that. And yeah, that's my excuse for being a week late to the uploads. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment anything you disagreed or agreed with in this video. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of differing opinions in this one. Again, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.